Today is going to be a little bit more vulnerable of an episode than normal, but in my therapy session, my own therapy session today, I experienced something that I think many women and many mothers experience. So I want to share what I learned after the session, doing some research and diving in to figure out how this happened, right? I sat across from my therapist via Zoom with my partner not in the room. This is actually our couples therapist. And she asked me a question. I answered with what I thought was a perfectly reasonable sentence. I said, we are going to focus on, my needs. We are going to take care of ourselves. And she let it sit for a moment. The question was about me. It wasn't about a we. It was about me. And then she asked very gently, as she does, how would it feel to say I? And I couldn't. Um, and I want to talk about this because I think a lot of women listening are going to recognize themselves in this. And I get something to talk about. I don't think anyone had ever pointed out how often I say we. Sometimes I think I say we because I'm thinking about my whole system, like my internal parts, in IFS terms. Sometimes I say we because I'm just so used to considering everyone and so uncomfortable with considering just myself. So, welcome back to Pulling Threads. I'm Leslie. On this show, we're going to talk about the intersection of a bunch of things: nervous system regulation, attachment, and the kind of quiet inner work that doesn't make for dramatic before and after stories, but does slowly change someone's life. Today's episode's one of those quiet ones. It's about a single moment in a therapy session and the much bigger pattern that moment exposed. I'm calling it the disappearing eye. And by the end of the episode, I think you're going to know exactly what I mean by that because maybe you've been doing it for years. So back to the moment. My therapist asked me how I would feel if I said I instead of we. And I couldn't do it. When I closed my eyes and pictured myself saying it, I couldn't, and I didn't want to. The sentence completely stalled in my throat. Saying I, she asked, what does that bring up for you? What if you did say I? What does it say about you? And the only word that was literally like flashing in neon lights was selfish. It felt like I was claiming something I hadn't earned. It felt like I was peeling away from a system that I was supposed to be a part of or I was supposed to be tending to. The cleaner, safer move was to keep all of my parts, past and present, together, merged. Maybe all of my family, maybe my partner and I, but seeing myself as an individual, as self, felt selfish. It was the only word I could come up with. So to keep speaking for both of us, whomever both of us are, to keep the language of the relationship in plural, even when I was alone in the room with my therapist, even when the work being asked of me was my work, I can't tell you how much of that session was spent describing and navigating my partner's work and needing to describe it so that I could show her that I understood like why he does what he does. And that is something I've done for years in other relationships as well. And I think it's why when someone does something that feels hurtful, I'm so offended by it because I've already done a deep dive of their system and I already have spent hours trying to navigate their inner workings so I could understand why they do what they do and why they don't do what I may want or expect or need them to do. Today's session was about me. I went to our couples therapist by myself to talk about my needs, and it took 30 minutes to get there. And I think some context will help. My partner's doing an intense amount of therapy for complex trauma, and he's doing this real hard, beautiful work that in that situation you're asked to do. And the relationship has for a long time been really organized around his work and that work and his needs and his nervous system. And I'm not telling you this to complain about him. I love him. I respect his process. I'm telling you because I've started to notice something, that the orientation of my entire life has quietly shifted towards him. And I had to stop noticing my own needs and stay focused on his, because the capacity for him or for us to worry about my needs had shrunk down, especially as his work became more and more intense. So it also has become really uncomfortable for me to state my needs, both to him and myself. And so I've stopped doing that. And when my therapist asked me to say what she was really asking was, can you locate yourself? And I couldn't, not in that moment. I didn't want to. I didn't want to because it didn't feel good to do that. So I want to name this because obviously after my session, I've done some meditation and some deep diving and some work. And I'm going to call this the disappearing eye, right? The disappearing eye is what happens when women have lived so long inside the emotional weather of another person or persons that they no longer have a neutral location to speak from, their own. And when asked what she wants, she answers from a we. When asked what she needs, she answers in terms of the system. The first person voice, not the dramatic, declarative I, but the quiet, ordinary I of I'd like that. I'd rather not. I'm tired. I want. It's gone quiet. Sometimes for years. I want to be clear what this is not. This is not selflessness. Selflessness is a choice made from a centered self. The disappearing I is the absence of a centered self, possibly being mistaken for a virtue, or in my case, not even being noticed. Except, we'll get to this, I have noticed. I've noticed in a very big way. But the distinction matters because the woman who has disappeared into a we will often defend her pattern as goodness, as love, as what a good partner does, what a good mother does, or what a good business owner does. And I'm here to gently challenge that for myself, because obviously I need this challenge, and for anyone else who's working through this. Because what we're actually doing often is using the language of love to describe what is functionally becoming or has become a survival strategy. So where does it come from? The honest answer is it's almost never built into current relationship. The current relationship just brings it to light and reveals it if we're willing to see it. In internal family systems, we would say that there is a protector part, a part of the psyche that took on a job a long time ago of keeping you safe by keeping you tuned to other people. Maybe a part that learned in childhood that a clearly spoken need was the thing that ruptured connection, or that a parent's emotional state was your responsibility, or that being separate was punished, being merged was rewarded. That protector took the steering wheel, that I went underground, and the protector has been driving ever since. I think this happens often when we have one parent or the other who couldn't handle our big emotions. And that definitely was the case for me. I also had, I love you, Tassie. I have a sister who had really big emotions. Her face would turn red and she would cry and scream. And I watched and I saw what happened, the yelling and the frustration with her. She was getting it out. So I always thought, or I have thought in adulthood, maybe that was better because she was releasing it. I was watching her get in trouble for releasing it and thinking, I'm not going to do that. It made everyone uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable. Uh, so I did have big emotions, but I think as I got older and older, I learned somehow that it was safer to be diagnosing and thinking and engaging with other people's emotions than it was for my own and their needs too. There was a time period where I remember after my parents' divorce when my mom was really struggling and her needs were more important and her emotional state, I felt really responsible for it. I felt like I needed to keep things very calm because her system, I knew even at 8, 9, 10, like her system just couldn't handle anything else. She was working long, long hours in a factory. She was always exhausted and lonely, sad, and trying to navigate a life as a single divorced mother that she didn't want. She didn't ask for that. She was just overwhelmed. And so I did see her and learn how to keep myself calm and small and quiet so that she could stay safe and therefore I could stay safe. This is a pretty common pattern for kids. And we have other theories that I want to talk about as well. Like in polyvagal language, this is the territory of a fawn response. So the body's protective tilt toward the other person to appease, to attune, and to accommodate as a way of keeping the nervous system safe. In attachment language, it can show up as anxious attachment, which I've definitely done a lot of work through because definitely had that. This is where merging is preferable, right? Merging with the other person is preferable to keeping us differentiated because differentiation feels like the threshold of abandonment. And I think that is definitely playing a role here for me right now. Okay. So watching this person who I'm extremely attached to, he is my person, go through this intense transformational work, differentiating our nervous systems, differentiating us as separate people does feel somewhat scary right now as I watch him kind of on this roller coaster ride in his practice. So, and we layer in cultural conditioning, right? The good girl training. We've talked about that before. The woman as emotional laborer training. The mother as self-sacrifice training. These are all, we can call them training, we can call it programming, whatever you want. These are things we're always talking about pulling threads for, right? By the time we're adults with real demands, a partner in trauma work, children with high needs, managing AP exams and turning 13 and navigating puberty and boy drama or girl drama, a mother who is getting older and wants and needs more time with us, a business and entrepreneurship, which is new and needs to run on my presence. The protector just simply has more to do, right? The pattern intensifies, and we mistake that intensification for lots of things like love, right? And so the pattern of giving ourselves away and not seeing ourselves as an I, we think is like being a martyr, or this is how we love people, this is how we show up for them. And it's really easy to get lost in that. So I think the part where most women I work with don't yet see, and the reason why I wanted to make this episode, is how we start to leak in a way that becomes really harmful for us. The disappearing I doesn't stay inside the relationship, it leaks. It leaks into everything. It leaks into your business. Your pricing reflects what feels safe to ask rather than what you're actually worth. You give away time. You discount instinctively. You put off raising your rates because asking feels selfish. Everything starts to feel selfish. It leaks into your client work when you absorb the room and forget what you came in to say. You over attune. You let other people's agendas overwrite your own. It leaks into your career. You advocate beautifully for everyone else except you. You're the one who organizes the team, the one who thinks about morale, the one who makes sure no one's left out. And meanwhile, your own promotion conversation never happens because you can't quite locate the I who would ask for it. It might leak into your creative life. And this one is brutal. The unwritten essay, the unfinished project, the unrecorded episode, the book that's been 10 years in the almost. Because tending to someone else's emotional state will always feel more urgent than tending to your own work. And the disappearing I has been trained to take whatever is most urgent. So your creative life lives in a permanent almost. For me, that looks like touching my camera. I planted a beautiful butterfly garden in my front yard, and the butterfly bush is incredible and it's covered with butterflies. I planted that garden to photograph it. I love macro photography. I've been taking pictures. I have been taking a few pictures because there's a little cardinal family in my back window. I haven't edited them or posted them or anything. Like they're just sitting in my camera. My creative juices want desperately to come out and they want me to pick up my camera so badly. But everyone else's needs and every other group that I'm a part of's needs are coming first. It can leak into your friendships. You become the one who holds, the one who tracks, the one who sends the check-in texts. It can leak into your family of origin, where you're known for being easy and capable and low maintenance, and you wonder sometimes why nobody ever asks how you are. You're always the one who makes the call to check in on people. No one ever calls you. It can leak into your body and cause chronic tension, disrupted sleep, the feeling of depletion that you can't quite name or figure out where it came from, loss of pleasure, slow dimming of your desire for food, for movement, for sex, for surprise. And eventually it leaks into your sense of self, where you discover, often in midlife, often in a therapist's office on an ordinary Tuesday, that you don't actually know what you prefer, what you want for breakfast, what you want for the next decade of your life, what you want for the next 10 minutes, because you're thinking about what everyone else needs in the next 10 minutes. When I couldn't say I in my therapist's office, I wasn't only describing my relationship, I was describing what had happened to my voice across many different domains of my life. I would say many. So many of the things I just said are part of my story right now. So let's talk about the way back for me, for you, for anyone that you know this is going. this is resonating for. This just happens to be being recorded just a few days before Mother's Day. So it seems very timely because I think as mothers, many of us do struggle with this. But I want to be really careful with it. I don't want anyone listening to walk away thinking the work is to abandon the people you love. We know that's not the work. To punish a partner who's doing his own deep work, of course not. To turn the relationship into a battleground for you, the self that you misplaced, no. The work is quieter than that, and it's slower, and it can begin with little small practices, like noticing where I should go. I'm putting my energy there. I prefer that. I disagree. I'm not available for that. I want this. Saying it once, even when the protector flinches. Letting the flinch be data, not instruction. For me, we actually found a situation that I need to really be clear and state my needs in with my actual individual therapist. And I need to say to her, like, I need you right now. Are you available to show up? Like, I need to see you this many times per month. And I need to know for sure that you're going to be able to see me on those days. And if you can't, it's okay. But I need you to say you can't so that I can find someone else. Because that is something that I've been struggling with. And I think rather than walk away from that relationship because it's where it has really worked for me, I've pressed pause on my own individual therapy and decided to just give her time to like figure out whatever is going on in her life that's making it hard for her to see people, rather than take the initiative and say, no, I am important. And if you can't see me, that's fine, but I need to move on. So even having that conversation with our couples therapist about having that conversation with my therapist felt dangerous somehow or selfish. So I'm taking that in as data, right? Not instruction, but information. So treating the first person voice as a muscle that's kind of atrophied, not a moral failing, not evidence of selfishness, just a muscle that hasn't been used and needs to be built back up. We might feel selfish when you first start doing this. This feeling is not a verdict, though. It's a footprint of the protector who's been carrying you. You can thank that protector for looking out for you and still keep saying, I. Now, there's another piece of this that I want to address. When you are with a partner who is in active trauma work, reclaiming I gets genuinely complicated. Their nervous system has its own response to your I, and that response deserves its own episode. So I'm going to be making that one next. It's about what happens when the partner who's been the focus of the system can't quite hold the moment when you start showing up as a separate self. The shame floods, the over-explaining, the withdrawal that disguises itself as care. We're going to talk about that stuff. But for today, the work begins on your side, in your own session, in your own sentence, long before it has to be navigated between two people. I just think it's important to talk about what might happen in the relationship and how the relationship, especially that other partner, might respond to you showing up differently. As I've certainly experienced that. Even though I struggle to say I today, I have been holding a lot more space for myself in the relationship in a way that has felt really good. And it has triggered his system to be thrown off a little bit. It's also triggered his system to be intrigued, and he likes it. Like, he likes it when I'm busy. So this weekend I'm actually doing an episode for men who have an avoidant tendency and helping them understand their system and their reaction to women a little bit better. Uh, and there'll be a companion episode to help women understand what those men need. And one of the things is they need you to be busy and they need you to have your own life. They also want you to need them. So we'll get into that in that episode. But I want to leave you with something simple. Notice where you say we and us and they when the truer word is I. Notice how often it happens. I'm going to be keeping track of it. And I'm going to ask my people to help me keep track of it. Notice the bodily feeling when you put I in. The noticing is the beginning. You don't have to do anything with it yet. Just notice. And it is if this episode named something that you've been carrying and you'd like a place to bring it. I work with women on exactly this kind of thing at the Loom Life. But I also would love to hear from you in the comments. There's something very healing about knowing that we aren't going through these things alone. And even though I'm a therapist and a coach and I do all of this work, I'm also still a human. And I really love my network. I really love my community. And I love hearing from people who are going through these things. It's part of the reason I share it here. It's therapeutic for me. So many of us are experiencing this. So many of us have lost our eye and we're trying to find it and we're trying to get it back. So let me know. And remember, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just been waiting for permission to be used. That's how I'm looking at it. Until next time, thank you. If you liked this episode, it was beneficial, please share it with others, subscribe, do all the things, and I can't wait to see you again soon.